Welcome to another episode of the Office Altering Hire and Empower with Molly McGrath podcast. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. If you're a first-time listener, hopefully you'll become a long-time listener. As always, I'm your show host, Molly McGrath, founder of Hiring and Empowering Solutions and creator of this revolutionary podcast. You can check us out at hiringandempowering.com. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to have today, what a powerhouse guest. We have Robert Hanna, the founder, creator of Legally Speaking podcast. I was on Robert's podcast not too long ago. Clio partner also. Dude, that's a big accomplishment. Your podcast is powered by Clio. That's incredible. How the heck did you pull that off?
Yeah, well, firstly, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. And thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm a big fan of your work. I love everything you're doing. How did we get Clio? I think through, like you, consistently showing up, providing thought-provoking content. And then there was just a really good strategic alignment with why it would make sense for Clio. So for your listeners who may not be too familiar, I also own a legal recruitment firm over here in the UK where we do a lot of talent solutions offering to law firms, and Clio are particularly trying to penetrate the small to mid-sized law firm market. And that's a lot of the clients that I deal with here. So again, it made sense for them, not only optically, but also commercially and strategically to partner with somebody who's also potentially talking to their direct clients day in, day out.
I love that. I would love to hear, why legal recruiting?
Yeah, I didn't wake up one day and sort of thought this is what I was going to do for my career for sure. But I always knew I wanted to run a business, and I always knew I wanted to do something business involved. I fell into recruitment. So I did a few different industries before setting up my own legal recruitment firm. But the whole reason why legal and recruitment is really down to my grandfather. So my grandfather ran a very prominent law firm over here in the UK in the 1950s that went on to be one of the major firms outside of any major London-centric international law firm. So they did very good sort of what we'd call over here regional legal services work. And so when I was growing up as a kid, I would go into his law firm and I'd do the photocopying, making the coffee, all the important jobs that the law firms way back then needed doing. And I just thought, wow, he built such a strong reputation. He was really well known offline. Bear in mind, back in the day, there was there's basically a fax machine. There wasn't really mobile phones. There wasn't this. And it was a really word of mouth, built from the ground up, out of nothing, reputation of being a really successful firm. And I thought, wow, I would love to start my own business one day and also emulate that success and legacy that he left, which the famous quote that I was left when he passed away was live respected, die regretted, is try and do that in the online world and do these things sort of linked to podcasting, social media, brand building, using tech, and leave a legacy, but could be searchable. So my daughter can actually search some of the things that I actually got up to.
Oh, wait, can you say that quote again?
Live respected, die regretted. Yeah, it's something I live by every day, and I think it's because I always say to people not to get sort of too morbid on your show. I'm a very upbeat, positive person. When you strip it all back, all any of us really have is a legacy. So yes. It's thinking about how do you want to be remembered, what do you want to do, and equally yourself. You're doing such wonderful content, you're collaborating with people, you're helping people, you're doing good for the world. I'm really passionate about that, and hence why I want to be surrounded people like you who are doing the same, who are right and like-minded, where we can actually leave a positive impact, particularly on an industry and profession that is very resistant to change, I might add as well, in the legal space.
Very resistant to change, number one. Number two, trained skeptic. So in law school, they're trained to believe nothing, trust nobody. And so they have a double whammy, if you will. And it's so funny about resistance to change, because I was thinking about this before we started recording this morning. After we're done, I'm going to record a podcast, because this weekend I'm just sitting back watching the internet, and I'm like, this is fascinating. All these attorneys are going bonkers because of Alex Hormozi's webinar. Did you know about this?
I know about it loosely. Yeah, I saw a bit about it online, but tell me more.
Like 277,000 people attended live. And basically it was a webinar. It was what Russell's been saying forever, hook story offer. And, Alex has been around for, he's done phenomenal work, but these attorneys are like, I guess I gotta, who is this guy? Oh my God, like I gotta find out. And it's just really interesting because in my work, by and large, you talk about a legacy. I work with estate planning and elder law attorneys. That's what I'm very incredibly passionate about. And they do a webinar and they do a workshop, and that's how they build their funnel. That's how they get leads. That's how they get clients. It's basically them telling their story, them doing hook story offer. And it's just so funny to watch all these attorneys where now, resistant to change, to your point, is now they're like, oh my gosh, this guy broke the internet. Now you got my attention. Who is he? So it'd be really interesting for me to see how many people actually adopt his model and implement it, because for years, I've been saying you have to do a webinar, you have to do a workshop. That's the way that it's the greatest way to leverage your time for lead generation, lead conversion, all that. So I'm going to be interested how many are admiring the concept or actually get on board and start creating a digital footprint.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, it's like with the advent of AI now and everyone's talking about that. It's very simple, I think, in the modern world that we live in, either embrace or be left behind. I think we really are in that situation now with a lot of what's happening in terms of you using your practice, even just lawyers or attorneys listening in, the way you practice what day is so different to how it's going to be now. I think you have to keep curious and you have to be open to change, because just the speed of technology that's coming into an industry is unprecedented, and I've seen nothing like it before. So I'm excited. I sit on the excited fence for this in terms of how it can increase efficiency, how it's a win to pass on, reduce cost to potential clients, all of these different things. I see it as a personal win. But yeah, I mean, this is the legal world. Not everyone necessarily is open to that, and they have valid reasons for. But I think I'm always the Wayne Gretzky quote. Don't where the puck is going, right? You want to skate to where the puck is going, and I think that's definitely where this.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that you're in the UK and you're quoting Wayne Gretzky. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, we have, I have a big admiration for people your side of the pond who have done a lot of, amazing works. A lot of my favorite sports fans sports stars are in the US. I love my basketball, for example. I love all sports. So yeah, I'm a big fan of sports in the US and Canada and beyond.
Oh, I love that. And all right, you just gave us a great little slide in there in regards to either embrace or be left behind. And you and we can talk shop or legal recruiting all day. And I'm so excited to have you here to, talk about what's going on the other side of the pond. And I'm starting to see it here in the US. And we had a chat before, but as you know, like legal recruiting, I would love to get your insight, because in the US, it is impossible. To your point, attorneys will always tell me, well, when I was an associate and what have you, I'm like, that story, nobody wants to hear it. It lands like, when I walked to school uphill in a blazing snowstorm, both ways, barefoot, and nobody cares. It's not empowering. It's not exciting. It just says you're a dinosaur and you're rigid and you're unwilling to change. It's exhausting. And it's really hard because they're like, I'm not paying that salary. I'm not, blah, 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 blah. It's constantly picking from their past. And that's the benchmark. That's the measuring stick and what have you. And holy crap, like in the US, this whole debacle in law firms about people in-house or remote or what have you, like, and attorneys, as you know, and as you said, there's so resistance to change, and right now it's a massive problem to find associate attorneys, especially in family law. Family law is so incredibly hard, and any really truly court driven people. The pandemic hit, people sat on their couch like, I'm going to do transactional law. Like, oh, I don't want to be running around and going to court and being stressed out all the time. I want to be home with my family. I want to get back to actually enjoying working. So I would love for you to just share with our listeners about, your 411 on legal recruiting, sitting across the pond, as you say.
Yeah, no, and it's fascinating listening to what you're saying there. I think in terms of I guess, trends or things that I see. Firstly, probably over the last sort of 15, 20 years, US law firms have really been looking to take hold of the London market. So we've seen a lot of the white shoe firms, the sort of, some of the AmLaw 100s, anywhere from, I think we were talking off there, the likes of a Millbank to a Skadden, yep, a Kirkland and Ellis to, a Whiting Case, Skadden, etc. You name it. Now, what's happening there? These firms are coming in. They want to be in London, not only because obviously London is a really well globally recognized legal services hub and respected, and the court system here is deemed fair, etc., etc., etc. They also have the time zone swing, so you can do complex multi-jurisdictional deals where the US are waking up and the Far East are sort of going to bed. So you've got good time zone centric location, but also you've got some of the best trained English and Wales qualified lawyers in the magic circle. And what these US law firms typically coming in are looking for is, how can we entice the local talent over here in the UK out of these law firms into our law firm, so we can look to try and take some of this sort of really complex cross-border work, or leverage our existing clients and give them a pan-European offering as well, using London as a legal hub. So we're seeing a lot of that. So what does that mean? Basically, US law firms are coming with a checkbook, right? So they're coming over and they're quite happy to almost double associates comps over here, which is crazy, right? Now, people always say there's more to life than money. Yes, there is, and absolutely I agree with that. But also it does make people think twice when there's the realistic possibility of earning double doing almost the same job in a different law firm, right? Now, things to consider around that. Obviously, with these US law firms coming in, they're growing, so they're smaller. So that has its positives and negatives. The positives in the fact there's not loads and loads of partners, so it's not top partner heavy. So career progression to a senior attorney, senior associate to maybe a counsel to partner tracks are more plausible. Anyone sort of, if you look at Kirkland & Ellis in London, for example, if you joined as a junior associate, or you train with a US firm and join K&E, within 5-6 years of being post-qualified, you could be a non-equity partner, which would never be possible in the traditional UK, England, Wales focused law firms like the sort of Silver Circle, Magic Circle over here. So they can offer the faster career progression. They obviously offer the more money. They can offer maybe more client exposure because it's a leaner team. Maybe they've got a partner, but then an associate can get really client focused and ingrained in it. And it's leaner, so they get more billable hours, and so they've got busier work. So there tends to be, when it's quieter periods, there tends to still be bits and pieces of work to do. But sticking with busy, the volume of work they do is obviously significantly going to be a lot higher at times when they are very busy. But that's where they give the trade-off with the salary. So that's probably something that's quite interesting to your listeners to understand, that the US law firms are very serious about dominating the London market, only see it going one way. And you just look at Allen and Overy and Sherman and Sterling as the super merger that potentially, if that's going to be the way forward, we're only going to see more of who's Millbank. Is that going to be with Slaughter and May, the other Magic Circle firm? Is it going to be Sullivan and Cromwell and Freshfield? Is that the way it's going to be? And we're just going to have like a few giant firms, and then it's going to be boutique firms that fill in the gaps. I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to see.
It's really interesting because I really had no idea about the Magic Circle or the white shoe law firms and things of that nature till about 4 years ago. I had a UK recruiter call me and say, "Hey, I just got a really big contract with Millbank, and we want you and your recruiters to help us out with this." I'm like, "All right, give me the 411. What are we selling here?" Fascinating, like Millbank. I don't know if you know this, you probably do, but when they recruit, to your point, the salaries are insane that they're paying. Number one. Number two, they send you to Boston for 6 months as an associate attorney, and you get a mini MBA. So you go to Boston for 6 months, and they have partnered with Harvard to get a mini MBA, and that is the carrot that we were dangling, right? And it was fascinating because I'm like, oh, this is a slam dunk. This is easy peasy. And all the names that you just rattled off, I'm like, well, they're doing this and they're doing this. And I'm like, whoa, this isn't as easy as I thought. Like in regards to, it was a selling point, but these law firms now are getting very, very creative in regards to What, and then you mentioned Freshfields too. Freshfields, they're coming into the US now, and their model, because they're going through my law firm admin boot camp, they want to put all of their legal administrative assistants as a gift and a selling point where they are consistently pouring into, and there are layers that they have within their law firm of just the admin people for their attorneys. Like, is incredible. They have, I'm like, wait, a legal assistant, and they're like, the terms that they're giving these and the layers that they're, a master scheduler, master legal scheduler, and like what they're doing on the admin side to keep their admin people to pour into them and to give them that, like, they want certifications, they are pouring into them, investing in coaching and everything. It is just like, and they're coming in now, and they're in New York, San Diego, a couple other, and I'm not a fear monger, but I just want to make people aware for, like, it's coming this way too for US based law firms that are, it's competitive, not only with the associate attorneys, but even just the receptionists, the admin people. They're paying them very well, unlimited PTO. They work hard, no question. Like you said, sometimes your billable requirement could be 2,000 or 2,500. But if you're strategic with your time and you know how to work, and you're like, all right, great, I'm going to crush it, get my hours in, do the work and what have you. And then I'm going on holiday for 2 weeks, and it's okay. You're allowed to do that. That's not really the mentality here in the US.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting to see, isn't it, how there are comparisons. But what I would say over here in the UK, which again might be quite interesting, is with this wave of the US law firms coming in and those cultures, is also the accessibility to become dual qualified. Because obviously, typically on the transactional side, and to the extent the contentious side, litigation, arbitration, law firms in London have a preference for lawyers to be, England and Wales qualified. So with the Solicitors Qualifying Exam, it's far easier now for people to dual qualify. So let's say you have the New York bar and you want to try and get into the London market. If you have a certain number of years of experience, you'll probably be exempt from some of the parts of the Solicitors Qualifying Exam, which would make it far easier. And one of the exams is also just a multiple choice, which makes it sound very easy, but it is quite tough. You still need to do some studying for it, but if you're fairly competent and get your head around it. So I think what we're going to see now is more people becoming dual or tri qualified with the advent of the SQE that's come in.
Wow. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, that's fast. Is that already implemented?
It's already implemented. It's already happening. People are doing it. It's becoming more and more known. Let's say it's quite a new thing. So as time we go through cycles of it, I think it's going to be fairly interesting to see. I'm getting a lot of experienced attorneys that maybe people who have come from New York, who are in the UK, who are now, do you know what, I'm now going to become dual qualified just because I can take the SQE. I can be admitted from these amount of exams. I only need to do this. It'll only take me this amount of time, and then I've got the dual qualification. I think that's really cool.
Wow. So what would you like our listeners, US based law firms, to know about this? What do you think that they need to be aware of? And what do you see really trending as we come out of this post-pandemic world?
Yeah, I always say this, I'm in a people's business, and I think the number one thing I can teach law firms is to treat your people as people. I'm seeing the law firms that are over here win are the ones that are not just giving the lip service around the culture and well-being and treating them as words, but actually putting things in place. Because the thing that a lot of people fail to understand is when legal industry 50 years ago, there wasn't many options, whereas now there's so many options available to legal professionals. They can go into a legal tech world, they can go into interesting in-house roles, they can go into so many different options. So they're probably not prepared to put up with bad management, toxic cultures, things like that. So, you know, if you are a law firm partner or you're a US law firm listening to this and you've been losing people, don't point the finger, because remember, when you're pointing, there's a few fingers pointing back at you. It's really important to think about that and think, right, maybe we should start putting people first, and the profits will still follow. Whereas I think there's still been a tradition of every lawyer needs to do this amount of chargeable hours, no matter what. We don't care what the situation is. Really, the client comes first. I would encourage people to accept that clients are very, very, very important, and without them, you have no business. But without your people to do the job as well, you're only going to get sink. So I'd say really focus on the people side of things. I think that's really an important message that I try to spread far and wide, because I think, you know, we've seen it time and time again. I'm seeing too many people leave the profession after working very, very hard, spending lots of thousands of dollars to get qualified, to just not putting up with it. And I think that's a crying shame. And with some change and some real acceptance of people are people, and to quickly not go on too much of a tangent, I always say we're no longer in this B2B, B2C world of sales, marketing. We're in H to H. It's human to human, right? We want human to human connection. And the more that you can really meet people where they're at, but people that work for you and your clients, the more successful you'll be.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that and for having that mindset around that, because that is my daily battle. I don't know about you with law firms. By and large, I work with small, mid-sized firms. And I really like being connected, to your point. I like being connected to the heartbeat of the business and what have you. And I always say you're hiring human beings first, human doing second. And I just had a law firm yesterday. Like, there is a national shortage in the US of family law associate attorneys. That it really truly is a very, very big problem. And I have to say no to so many clients and taking their money because they are in family law if they do not have like a rock star culture, and I can't sell it and poach people away from other law firms. And to your point, I had a law firm every like at least once a day where they have these like very, very, very insulting assessments, written assessments that people have to take and do before they'll even get an interview. Like
Oh, wow.
for an office manager, it takes anywhere from 2 to 3 hours to finish this written interview before you will even get to meet with a partner or anyone. I'm like, that screams how old school your culture is. Nobody wants to have to perform. And yesterday I had a firm for associate attorneys. The average of unemployment is under 1% for associate attorneys. They're gainfully employed. They have integrity. So they're not going to interview during work. It's going to be after hours, nights and weekends. They're not looking for a job. So they're raising their hand saying, I'm interested to hear. But, you know, for you to make them complete this assessment. And I told them yesterday, I'm like, no, nobody's going to complete this assessment. That's why you cannot hire anyone. They're in so much pain. They're so stressed out. The attorney is like ripping their hair out. They're like, we need people. We need people. I'm like, then you need to change your process. Like, that's a common denominator. First of all, your salary is not very competitive. You have no health benefits. Your culture is not great. You think it's great. It could be on the way to being great, but you're not moving fast enough to make it great. And now you have this fucking assessment that you want people to fill out. Like, are you insane? Like, you're hurting your own growth.
Well, I always think about WIFM, right? Everyone's favorite radio station is What's in It for Me. And you loading somebody up who inevitably, let's talk about talent, right? Prime talent typically is not on the market. They're kind of happy in a job. They're really being busy, being very successful. So you as a strategic partner who every will in the way, no matter how well you sell that, to say to someone, yeah, you're not going to be able to speak to anybody until you've done 2 to 3 hours. And even then, I can't guarantee you're going to get in front of this client. You're putting yourself at such a different disadvantage, particularly if you're in a candidate short market, like you said, where it's a short source of supply. You're then creating an extra barrier to access to that talent through a very archaic system. And B, those sort of candidates are the ones that maybe having initial front end informal assessment of a coffee to get to know them, to get them warmed up and excited because they're prime successful talent, is a much better win. So yeah, you're talking my language. I think, look, nothing changes if nothing changes. Like, that's the reality, right? And I think these law firms are just, if they're pulling their hair out and they're doing the same thing day in, day out, then lo and behold, nothing changes, nothing changes. You're just whinging to somebody. Whereas, our job, Molly, rightly so, is we consult, right? We're there to consult, we're there to educate, and we're not there to tell them what they want to hear. And I think sometimes that's the difference with people, is like, we're telling you what the market's doing, and we don't control our product, right? Our product is not a pen. It's not a machine. It doesn't have a certain number of, it changes, right? They have feelings, they have emotions, they have market swings. So recruiters, you really need to listen to them because they're in the market day in, day out. So they can tell you the trends or what other law firms are doing. And if you choose to listen to that, great, you're going to win. If you choose to not, then you're going to be sat there with no people pulling your hair out, having the same problem time and time again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. It's interesting that you said we are coaches, we are consultants, we are truth tellers, right? If you're a really good legal recruiter. If not, then if your recruiter is not telling you news that makes you super like a gut punch, then they're not a great recruiter. I can tell you so often. I just had a call with a client that I had to fire last week. And like, she doesn't return our phone calls. It's just one thing after another. And in the meeting, I'm like, we have placed 2 other law firms within 50 miles of your office in family law, which is really hard because they respond, they, show up in the Zoom interview. They're not like the candidates on trial, like they're smiling, they're warm, they're they have unlimited PTO, they're remote, like all these things. They're willing to pay salary. And, she went ballistic, and I'm like, here's the deal. I can't sell you. Like, your website is not warm and inviting at all. You're not very nice even to us as recruiters, quite honestly. And you have so much high turnover, and you're not really responsive. And then when people present, it's like they're on trial. Like, it's a relationship. It's a relationship. So, and there are these Facebook groups with attorneys in the US that are constantly bashing recruiters, by and large, my company, which I'm A-okay with, because I'm telling you the truth and you don't like it. So now you're going to say that I'm suck at my job and my team sucks and all the things, but you're still sitting there and you have no employees. Like, is it really the recruiter?
Yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it? I think you have to think about pointing the finger is all well and good, but does that create a solution, or does it just add fuel to a situation? And I think ultimately you've got to be willing to work to a solution, and you're not necessarily working to a solution if you're not listening to what people are telling you and you're not getting the people. So if you've got to go back to your point about this process of you have to do this particular thing 2 to 3 hours of your time before even getting a foot in the door, I don't think I wouldn't do that, right? So even if the best, because I value my time, right? I value my time, and busy, successful attorneys value their time. So, asking somebody to do that, and I can see probably what the message is on that side. We've always done it this way. If they're not that interested, then they're not right for us. That's fine. But if everyone's saying that, who is right for you?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. This law firm, and I mean, great. Their director of operations, amazing. She's even like, I know, but that I'm like, send me the list of all the people you sent this quiz to and assessment. And the list was 2 miles long. I'm like, how many people sent it back? Like, nobody. And I think out of it, it was like 30% that did complete it, and they all failed. And you want to know why they failed. There's questions on there like, what's your favorite country band? And because the owner loves country music, and they're like, I don't like country music. They're out. Like, you're not part. No.
But that's also, think about it this way, right? We're also, and it's something that I champion over here in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. we want to include a more inclusive legal professional workforce. And so, you should be accepting of different people's cultures, beliefs, interests, So discounting someone because they don't like country music, for example, to use your point, is quite frankly fucking madness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the record. So there we go.
We got an explicit on this podcast.
Yeah. There we go.
Tell our listeners how they can connect with you and hear more, because I'm so grateful to have found you, to have connected with you, and that you are like screaming from the rooftops, as I am, about what needs to change in the legal space. And I know you're going to be coming to the US, and I'm going to see you at ClioCon on October 9th and 10th, right?
Yeah, no, I'm super excited about that. Really looking forward to meeting you in person. Yeah, so I will be in Nashville. It's the first time I've been back in the US for some time with the pandemic and having a young family. So I'm really looking forward to it. So if you are in ClioCon and would like to meet, please do let me know, or let Molly know. It'd be great to meet you, to say hello. And yeah, if you equally want to know more about what I'm getting up to, I have a Discord community. It's our Legally Speaking Club. So we talk about the content that's on our podcast, which is Legally Speaking Podcast, but we also talk about events, things that are going on in the legal industry, trends, etc., etc. So feel free to jump into our Legally Speaking Club Discord. I think, Molly, you're going to kindly share that with this episode as well.
Yep, I'll put the link in the show notes, and tell us a little bit more about that, because I love it that you have 863 members and that you're like, oh, we only have 800. I'm like, what? That's fantastic. You haven't really launched this. So tell them a little bit about how they join and what they can expect.
Yeah. And I mean, again, talking about to where the puck is going, most people are in a LinkedIn group, right? Or on a it's been very easy for us to have done a LinkedIn group, a Facebook group, and that's all well and good. But I wanted to do something different, that's interesting, that's exciting, but also because I'm a tech enthusiast. So with Discord, people simply, the link that you will get given, or you'll be able to see which Molly shares, you click that and you can pretty much join straight away just from that particular link. We talk about a whole matter of different topics linked to and in and around the legal industry, from mental health to legal careers advice, applications, resources, snippets from our show. You can share media in there, multimedia, video, audios. You can also gamify it, so you can have certain sort of channels which can be to certain members. We've done some NFT drops, for example, where you can do token gated events linked to the Discord. We can also have our own in-community chat, so you can have a whole live stage chat with all the members and go live. Makes it more interactive. You can share like all different forms of media, and it's just a really interactive, immersive, exciting place where we're building it day by day, and people are joining us, and we're excited. And people talking about the future of law, the metaverse, all of that good stuff. We're having all of those conversations. So yeah, if you want to be part of that and you want to drive discussions, or you would like to collaborate in some capacity, jump in and tell us who you are, and let's hear from you.
What are they US based, UK based, or both?
All over the world. So
all over the world.
Yeah, it's global. Yeah, so we have everyone from the US, UK, Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore, Europe, France, Germany, all sorts.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Can I join?
You can join, most definitely, Molly. We'll be much richer and greater for having you, for sure.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to put in the show notes, gang. It'll be there. Also, join us. We'll be at Clio, and you're going to be doing some live podcasts.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm going to be doing, so I'm a media partner for Clio, as you very kindly mentioned. So we've been working with Clio for a couple of years now. And this is just part of our ongoing relationship where, I'm going to be on the ground there as a media partner. So I'm going to be doing lots of sort of pop-up podcasts. So if you see me with a mic, come and say hello to me. The likelihood is I'll probably want to do an interview with you. And yeah, then we'll send you on the airwaves and get your story out there.
Tell me if any of our attorney listeners, because I have a lot of amazing attorney friends across the US, they're doing some really cool stuff in the legal space, online, digitally, what have you, membership, subscriptions, things that nature. Anybody has like really what they feel like is an industry disrupting idea, can they reach out to you? Would you throw them on your podcast?
Always open to people that are trying to be disruptive. Yeah, I think that's what we're all about. And I mean, we've had Donya Moynier, who's founder of Gavel, who's doing some really interesting things. We've had a whole host of legal tech startups. We've had Nicole Clark, who's at Trellis, doing some interesting. So yeah, people, if you're doing something that is solving a problem, that's disrupting, that is, people are still at the stage of, oh, I'm not sure, I want to talk to you. I want that, because if it's good enough, people will know they'll have to be sure, and you got ahead of the curve, and that entrepreneurial flair and that wisdom we want to share with our listeners.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to put subscribe to Legally Speaking Podcast. I'm going to put the Discord in the chat. I'm going to put your podcast link. And of course, please, if you're listening and you like it, my podcast, Robert's podcast, throw us a bone and rate it. Give us a thumbs up, give us a star, share it with your friends. We would love it. And Robert, I am so unbelievably grateful that we connected. I can't wait to hug you in person, see you at Clio doing your magic on the ground with the Clio partners. And I'm just really, really grateful. And thank you for really being a truth teller in the legal recruiting space. And just like, I love someone who I could lock arms with to really gently shake these law firm owners to be like, it's time for a change. You have to embrace the change, or it's really going to be heavy and hard for you. And it doesn't have to be that way. As I always say, you have to pay to play. So, it's just money. To your point, you can always make money. And so if you have to pay someone $20,000 more, then that's just like gamification. I love gamifying everything. That's a challenge for you as an entrepreneur to go make more money, get more business.
Exactly. The better the talent you have, the better you're going to be. And, premium talent, obviously you have to be prepared to pay for it. But Molly, this has been an absolute blast. I'm super grateful for being on your show, allowing me to be a part of your community. So yeah, super excited to see you in Nashville. And yeah, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to reach out.
Yes. Oh, I can't wait. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Molly.
All right. Until next time, team, continue being legal leaders, leading legal leaders. We've reached the end of yet another episode of the Hire and Empower with Molly McGrath podcast, where dream teams of entrepreneurs in an entrepreneur's world really do come true. Listen, whether you're a business owner, employee, executive, or hiring manager, we fully understand hiring, onboarding, and leadership is expensive, exhausting, often overwhelming, and absolutely time-consuming for the already taxed professional. Well, we have your back on all fronts. For 25 years and counting, we have transformed over 4,000 law firm teams into the most efficient, resourceful, and profitable asset of your business. Check out our Smart Hire solution, our employee leadership program, and the 66-day law firm turnaround at hiringandempowering.com.